Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Monday, February 23rd, 2026, and I actually want to start today by asking you, our listener, a somewhat personal question.
Oh, coming right out of the gate with the hard question.
We kind of have to, right? So I want you to be really honest with yourself for a second. How is your screen time looking lately?
If it's anything like mine, it's not a pretty picture.
Right. Because if you are anything like me, or honestly anyone else living in 2026, you are intimately, painfully familiar with the doom scroll.
Oh yeah.
You know the routine. You pick up your phone just to check the time or maybe answer a quick text, and suddenly
45 minutes are gone.
exactly, it's 20, 30, 40 minutes later, and you are just paralyzed. You've seen, 3 global crises, a natural disaster, maybe a random cat video thrown in the middle there,
Always a cat video.
always, and then 5 more bad headlines, and you physically feel that tightness in your chest.
It really is the defining anxiety of this decade, isn't it? I mean, we have access to all the information in human history, but a lot of it just hurts to look at.
It does.
It's this weird paradox of information overload, but at the same time, it feels like spiritual starvation.
Spiritual starvation. That is a really great way to put it. But here is where we pivot today. Because the data we are looking at shows that people are actually fighting back.
Right. They aren't just sitting there taking it anymore.
No, and they aren't just, throwing their phones into a river either, though I have definitely thought about doing that.
Haven't we all?
But they are tuning into a very specific frequency to drown out the noise.
It's a counter movement, almost like a sonic immune response.
Exactly. And it is coming from a place you might not expect if you haven't been paying close attention to the charts. We are talking about Christian hip-hop, or CHH.
Which is such a fascinating cultural shift.
It really is. And
Oh, boy.
before you, roll your eyes and think of some cheesy Sunday school rap from the 90s, you need to look at the reality of the landscape in 2026.
Right, this is not that.
Not at all. This isn't a niche subgenre anymore. It is a massive cultural force. And specifically, the data shows it is being used as a tool, almost like a mental health utility, to combat anxiety.
That is the key distinction we need to establish right up front. It has moved from, music you listen to on Sunday because you feel like you have to music you actively use to get through a Monday commute because you need to.
So here is our mission for this deep dive. We have a really fascinating report that was published just earlier this month in AL.com, and it breaks down this entire explosion.
It's a great piece of journalism.
Really in depth.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at why Gen Z and millennials are driving this surge. We're going to dissect the streaming numbers, which honestly, they're staggering.
Only numbers, really.
Yeah, I had to double check them. And finally, we're going to look at how the mainstream music industry is scrambling to catch up to a movement they completely missed.
It really is a perfect case study in how culture shifts when people just get tired of the status quo. Let's dive into it.
Let's do it. So let's start with the why. Why now? Why hip-hop? And why is this resonating so deeply with a generation that is, statistically speaking, less traditionally religious than previous ones?
Well, it comes right back down to what we started with, the doom scroll.
Right.
The report identifies the core driver here as purely emotional. It is about mental health and coping. There's a figure in the industry interviewed in the source, James B. Rousseau Sr.
He goes by Trig.
Right. Exactly, Trig. He owns Holy Culture Radio on SiriusXM, and his analysis is that young people are specifically hunting for 2 things, hope and belonging.
And Trig is a really fascinating character in this whole ecosystem.
Very much so.
Because he is not your typical radio DJ who just sort of fell into a broadcasting gig. He actually walked away from a high-level corporate job to build this specific platform.
Which tells you he saw a massive market gap that corporate America was completely missing.
Yeah.
He realized that the primary product being sold by mainstream media, which is fear, division, constant hype, it was creating a deficit in the listener.
Right. And I love the metaphor he uses to describe what he is building. He doesn't just call his station a channel or a media brand. He explicitly calls it an artery into the community.
That is such a deliberate and powerful choice of words. Think about what an artery actually does. It doesn't just sit there passively.
It transports lifeblood.
Exactly. It connects vital organs. It keeps things alive. Rousseau is essentially arguing that traditional entertainment drains you. It takes your attention and it just hands you anxiety in return.
A bad trade.
A terrible trade. But he sees CHH as something that, in his words, feeds the spirit.
Spirit-feeding content. That is a term we should definitely stick a pin in, because it implies that the content itself is nutritional.
I like that analogy.
Like you have junk food content on social media, and then you have whole food content.
Precisely. Rousseau talks about his listeners wanting a joyful noise because they are just crushed by the weight of a broken world. And if you look at the headlines from the last couple of years, from 2024 and 2025, that feeling of being crushed is universal. Is not just a religious feeling. It's a profoundly human one. People are actively looking for a lifeline.
But here is the assumption I think a lot of our listeners might have. When we say Christian hip-hop, I think the immediate mental image for most people is a youth group.
Oh, for sure.
You picture teenagers, maybe college kids, people who are still firmly inside that youth culture bubble.
Right.
But the demographics from Holy Culture Radio paint a very, very different picture.
They do. And this was actually the first big surprise in the research for me. I fully expected it to be skewed heavily toward the under 21 crowd.
Same.
But the data from the report shows that nearly 38% of their listeners are between the ages of 25 and 45.
25 to 45. That is the prime working demographic.
Exactly. These are not kids hanging out at a skate park. These are millennials and older Gen-Zers.
People with real responsibilities.
Right. These are people with mortgages, high-stress careers, maybe young families of their own. They are right in the thick of the daily grind.
Yeah.
They are the ones directly dealing with inflation, with career burnout, with all the heavy complexities of adult life.
So they aren't listening because their parents forced them to listen in the minivan.
Yeah.
And they aren't listening because it's the cool new trend in the high school cafeteria.
Not at all. They are listening because they need a tool to regulate their mental state.
Right.
Think about it. If you are 35 and you are stressed about the economy or your job security, you might find that aggressive, highly materialistic, mainstream hip-hop just spikes your cortisol levels even more.
It just adds to the noise.
Exactly. So you turn to CHH because it regulates your nervous system. It offers a counter-narrative to all that daily stress.
It's a coping mechanism. It is almost medicinal.
It is self-medication through audio. Instead of taking a pill or having a drink after work, they're putting on noise-canceling headphones and listening to something that explicitly says it's going to be okay or there is a greater purpose to this struggle.
Okay, so we have firmly established the feeling behind the movement, the vibe check, so to speak.
Right.
But feelings don't always translate to actual business. And this is a deep dive, so we need to look at the hard data. Because when I saw the streaming numbers from Luminate in this AL.com report,
They are wild.
I honestly thought they made a typo.
They are massive, massive numbers.
So let's break this down for everyone listening. We are looking at data from the first 30 weeks of 2025. So just the first half of last year.
Right.
And this is specific to on-demand audio streams for the Christian and gospel genre, but specifically focusing on the R&B and hip-hop subgenre. What was the exact number?
1.37 billion.
1.37 billion streams in just over 6 months.
And the context is what makes that number so crucial. If you look at the exact same period in 2024, the number was 878 million.
Okay, so we are talking about nearly a 50% jump year over year.
Yes.
That is not normal growth. In a mature music market, a label is usually thrilled with 5% or 10% growth. 50% is a complete explosion.
It is exponential, and it signals to the industry that this isn't just existing fans listening to their favorite songs a little bit more.
It's new people.
Exactly. It's an influx of entirely new listeners, people migrating from other genres. But I actually want to go a layer deeper than just the stream count.
Let's do it.
Because stream counts can sometimes be vanity metrics, right?
Yeah, anyone can leave a Spotify playlist running on mute in the background while they sleep.
Precisely. But the AL.com report highlights behavioral data about who these people actually are. And this is where it gets really interesting for marketers, sociologists, or really anyone interested in human behavior.
This audience is incredibly active.
Very active.
The report mentions they are 47% likely to attend a motivational seminar in the next year, which is quite high.
Which completely tracks with the seeking hope narrative we were just talking about. They are looking for self-improvement. They are seekers. But the statistic that really blew my mind, and the one I think defines this entire movement, is the volunteering data.
Lay it on us.
These specific listeners are 39% more likely to volunteer in their communities over the next 12 months compared to the average music listener.
39% more likely. That is a massive behavioral correlation.
It is huge, and it implies something profound about the genre itself. If you listen to ambient electronic music, it helps you focus while you work, sure.
Right.
If you listen to pop, maybe it helps you escape or dance at a club. But this genre, what they're calling rhythm and praise, It seems to be actively mobilizing people.
It signals a real lifestyle shift.
Exactly. You listen to the message, you internalize the call to be a better person or to serve others, and you actually go out into the real world and do the work.
That is the big difference between passive consumption and active inspiration. It creates this positive feedback loop. You feel better, so you go do good in your community, which in turn makes you feel even better. It is functional music.
Functional music is the perfect term for it. It is music that does a job. And that feedback loop is creating an entirely new cultural category. One of the artists featured in the article, Miles Minnick, he actually coined a term for this.
Oh, right. He calls it the new mainstream.
The new mainstream.
I really like that branding. It sounds incredibly ambitious.
It is ambitious. Miles Minnick is an independent hip-hop artist, and he is really the poster child for this current crossover era.
Yeah.
His personal definition of the new mainstream is putting faith at the absolute center of culture and proving you can be bold about your beliefs while making a real, tangible impact.
So he isn't trying to hide the faith element to sneak into the mainstream.
Not at all. He's leading with it.
And he isn't just tweeting about this stuff either. He is arguably breaking barriers that haven't really been touched before.
He's making real moves.
The article mentions a major milestone from March of 2025 that I think we really need to highlight because it sounds almost impossible on paper.
Yes. He became the very first Christian hip-hop artist to headline a stage at Rolling Loud Los Angeles.
Okay, for the uninitiated, or for anyone who hasn't been to a major music festival in a decade, we probably need to explain what Rolling Loud actually is.
It is definitely not a church camp.
No, it's not.
Rolling Loud is the premier hip-hop festival in the world. It is loud, it is gritty, it is often very hedonistic. It is the absolute epicenter of secular rap culture.
Yeah, it's mosh pits, it's rage, it's raw energy.
Exactly.
So putting a Christian artist on a headline stage there, it is like putting a salad bar in the middle of a candy store. Or like building a library inside a nightclub. It is a massive disruption.
It disrupts the environment completely, but it signals something important. The sheer quality of the music is now high enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the biggest secular acts on the planet.
Because the beat has to knock.
Exactly. If the music was corny or poorly produced, they would get booed off the stage immediately. The Rolling Loud crowd does not mess around.
Right.
But Minnick is proving those old barriers are dissolving. He isn't asking for a quiet little Christian side stage. He is competing in the main arena.
And he is building a whole ecosystem around it, right?
Yeah.
It is not just the music. He is very smart about the business side of this.
Right. He launched the GLO Festival in the Bay Area. He has a streetwear clothing line called Christ-like.
Yeah.
He is proving that you can build a brand that is explicitly religious but aesthetically competitive with something like Supreme or other high-end streetwear brands. He is making the lifestyle look attractive.
Which brings up a really vital point made by Angelina Jolivet in the report. She is an industry executive, the founder of Moon Baby Media, Inc.
Right.
And she argues that this crossover is happening not just because the beats are finally good, but because the themes and the lyrics are universal.
She refers to the genre as rhythm and praise, and she points out that you don't have to be a theologian to appreciate what they're saying.
No.
She lists the core themes: mental health, awareness, personal redemption, positive living.
Right. Because if you are sitting in your car struggling with depression, and you hear a song about overcoming darkness and finding light, you don't necessarily care if the artist is an ordained pastor or a pop star.
Exactly.
You just care that the song helps you get through the next hour.
Yeah.
You care that someone is validating your pain.
That's it. Jolivet is basically saying the genre is completely debunking the old church music myth.
Right.
It is not just music for the church anymore. It is music about real life, viewed through a specific lens. And because life right now is just really hard for everyone, regardless of what you personally believe, the audience is expanding rapidly.
People will take truth and comfort wherever they can find it.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of expanding audiences and blurring these traditional lines, this leads us to perhaps the strangest but most fascinating trend in this entire report, the pastor-rapper hybrid.
It sounds like a punchline from a late-night sketch, doesn't it? The pastor-rapper.
It really does.
Yeah.
But we are seeing real figures who are legitimately straddling these two completely different worlds, and they're doing it at an incredibly high level. The prime example the article gives is Pastor Mike McClure Jr. out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Pastor Mike Jr. is an absolute phenomenon. You really have to look at his weekly schedule to understand it.
It's wild.
On Sunday morning, he is the senior pastor of Rock City Church. He is standing in the pulpit preaching a sermon to his congregation.
Right.
But the rest of the week, he is a highly successful Grammy-nominated hip-hop artist. He actually got a Grammy nomination this year in 2026.
And what is so wild about his story is the direction of the traffic. This is the business insight that really caught my eye in the report.
Yeah.
Usually, historically speaking, you go to a church, and while you're there, you discover the church choir or the worship band. The physical church is the hub.
Right.
But he told the Alabama Media Group that it is working completely in reverse now.
He said hundreds of thousands of people are tuning into his church's online worship services simply because they found his rap music first on Spotify or Apple Music.
That is the reverse funnel in action. The music is the very top of the funnel.
It is a brilliant customer acquisition strategy if you want to look at it cynically from a business perspective.
Yeah.
But from his perspective, it is pure evangelism. He says the music is opening up a whole new audience.
Yeah.
These are people who might never, ever set foot inside a physical church building. Maybe they have been hurt by organized religion in the past, or they just aren't interested.
Right.
But they will happily listen to a hot track on a workout playlist. And once they trust the artist's voice, they check out the underlying message.
It is literally meeting people where they are, in their headphones.
Exactly.
And the mainstream industry, the secular music industry, is validating this model.
Yeah.
This isn't just independent artists uploading mixtapes to SoundCloud anymore.
No. The big money is heavily involved now. Pastor Mike Jr. signed a major distribution deal with Rethink, which is an arm of Capital Christian Music Group.
And major labels do not sign deals out of charity.
Never.
They do it because they see the market share. They see that 1.37 billion streams we talked about earlier, and they want a piece of it.
They see the engagement, they see the volunteering stats and the seminar attendance. They know this audience is incredibly sticky.
A very loyal audience.
Exactly.
Now, we can't talk about the scale of this movement without mentioning the absolute titans of the genre. Because I think there's a misconception out there that these are all just up-and-coming underground artists.
Right.
But some of these guys are putting up numbers that rival the biggest pop stars